From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey, everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Digital Strategist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's podcast, I have Mr. Bud Kraus with me. And Bud is going to talk about getting sponsorship for your podcast and your show. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing. Hey, everybody, Rob Cairns here, and I'm laughing because I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Bud Kraus. How are you, Bud?
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm wonderful today. I'm like
Wait a
so
second.
chill.
Hold
It's
on.
not
You
even...
gotta stop. You call everybody your good friend. Now, everybody's not your good friend, Rob. I hate to break your bubble here.
But you are, so I'm allowed to harass you. So don't even start with me this
All
morning.
right.
I'm in a
All
punchy
right,
mood.
go on.
So we're going to just jump on in. Today's topic and the title of the show is "Show Me the Money." So let's jump in. Why? And you've jumped into podcasting too, so I assume it
Mhm.
will revolves around that. So tell us a little bit about your podcasting story and why the topic.
Okay, so the podcast, Seriously Bud, started about a year and a half ago now. Actually, really 2 years ago when I left WordCamp US 2023. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could spend more time with whoever, Rob Cairns, it doesn't matter, and do a interview unearthing their life story, not their WordPress journey, not what plugin they're working on, but where were they born? What were they like as a kid? All that kind of stuff, personal stories. And I thought, like, well, I don't care if anybody ever listens to it or if I ever get a sponsor or if it ever takes off or anything. I just want to do this because I'm interested in people's stories. And so I started doing it, and lo and behold, started getting sponsors. It's now taken over my life. It's like a little enterprise.
Yep.
And yes, it really has taken over. And I love doing it. And today we'll talk a little bit about getting money. Yes, money, something I didn't think about when I started. But how to get sponsorships for whether it's not just a podcast, but really anything, a blog, a newsletter, an event, whatever.
Yep. Now, what I will say is you've done a great job with the podcast. I've been a guest on your show, and I thank you
Yes,
for
you
that.
have.
It was so much
Early,
fun. It was,
yes,
yeah, and it was a different take on getting into people's lives instead of the usual
right,
marketing stuff, which I like to talk about.
right.
And I think a show like yours, actually, Bud, helps build connection with people and with your listeners because you're really diving into some personal stuff. And
Yeah,
I
that's
know
it.
I'm and I know I'm pretty on my show, I'm pretty more transparent than most people. So most podcast hosts aren't as transparent on their personal lives as I tend to be, but your
Mhm.
show really breaks that down, and you should be like really congratulated for that because it brings on such a nice look on people.
Well, I don't know about congratulate, but what I do like is the fact, and I sort of recognize this pretty early on, is that
Yeah.
this is sort of like a service of introducing or letting people in the WordPress community know people in a deeper way without really having to spend time talking with them. And like if you want to meet somebody for the first time, you can come to my seriouslybud.com website and listen to an episode and say, okay, I
Yep.
know all about Michelle Frechette now, or a lot about her in a different way.
Yep.
You
And
know,
what your podcast is doing for you, and I will say this, what it does for me is look at the friendships. And you
yeah.
kid me all about saying my good friend, but that's your problem, not mine.
Right.
So, but look at the friendships. Like
Yeah.
look at you and I, because we've
Yeah.
done my show a couple times, and,
Yeah.
we become honestly pretty good friends.
And we've
Bud
never
and
met
I,
each other.
No, and Bud and I banter about baseball all the time. There's banter
Mhm.
about the Blue Jays and chats and personal stuff and you moving and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the beauty of podcasting for
I
the
think so.
host is
Right.
it's the people you meet in the journey, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because, initially I thought, well, I know my little group in the WordPress world and I'll interview
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And that little group has gotten to be a much bigger little group,
Uh-huh.
you know, and it's really cool. And I just like, wow, that I didn't sort of really think of the connections that I would make that have not just been beneficial like at a psychic level, but also on a financial level, because a lot of those
Yeah.
people ended up becoming sponsors or people that I
Yep.
do writing for. So it's like one
Yeah.
big, nice, happy little ball.
Yeah. And it just builds the community. I mean,
Yeah.
at the time of this record, I'm bearing down on the 600th episode of my show.
Yep.
And I was saying to Tiz the other day on the phone after we got back from a little vacation. I said, it's amazing the friends I've met and the people I've done business
Yeah.
with. And that
Mhm.
kind of segues into our topic. The people I've
Mhm.
done business with and I've gotten to know because of the podcast.
Well, as far as like getting to the idea of show me the money, the first
Yeah.
rule of thumb, I guess, is whatever industry, business, whatever you're doing, the best way to do is even before you start thinking of anything like sponsorships, like me, I didn't think of that, is to
No.
really get networked into your world,
Mhm.
whether it's software, hardware, whether you're a landscaper, what doesn't really matter. Get to know people in your industry so that before you really launch anything, you're already sort of like a known quantity. That
Yeah.
really helped my podcast. I mean, it worked out really well that way. So, and then once you start doing that, and maybe somebody will approach you like Omnisend did last year, well, you're just like open to it. And my suggestion is to be very flexible and good at negotiating. And in my case, since I wasn't expecting anything, it was just really nice. Now, truth of the matter is, it takes a lot of time to make a podcast. It really does. And especially I do all this
Uh-huh.
editing. So
How
I
long does
do.
it take you?
Oh, that's like the question I once asked Bob Dunn, and he says, "How long do you have?" That's my answer. How long do you
Yeah,
have?
it's a fair answer because on this show, I do what I
Right.
call soft edits. I really don't edit. I'm
Yeah.
awful,
I know.
and I know that.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
always tell my guests I'm recording to tape. So in the
Right.
business, that means what you say gets
Yeah.
out there. And even doing soft edits, by the time I dump the trailers on, the footers
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
all that good stuff, and
Yeah.
promote it and write it in my newsletter, I'm 6 hours an episode in, no matter with soft
That's quite a,
edits.
that's quite a bit. I do a little more than that for my, like, say, 30-minute
Yeah.
show.
Yep.
But, I do two passes. It's pretty
Yep.
heavily edited.
Yep.
I have a certain kind of approach that I want to put into the
Mhm.
show.
Yeah.
And after a while you start to think, hey, this does take time and I want to get paid for this. And
Yep.
especially if I'm developing a platform for advertisers to promote their product or service, yeah, you should get paid for it.
Yep.
So, and then of course the hard thing is, well, what do you get paid? And that's still something I'm
Yep.
really working,
Yep.
what's the appropriate amount to get paid? And
Yep.
if you're flexible like me, then it's a matter of just negotiating to both parties getting to say yes,
Yep.
you know.
And a lot of it is podcasting. There's big companies out there. Right away, Wonderly comes to mind, which is owned by Amazon. They're the
Mhm.
guys who produce like Business Wars and Business Movers and all that stuff. I'm a big Wonderly fan. There's some big independent podcasts out there, some sports
Sure.
ones I listen to.
Yeah.
I listen to the number one podcaster in the world, or number two, in Mel Robbins, quite regularly. I'm an avid
Uh-huh.
Mel consumer.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I listen to podcasts in the WordPress space, and there is still a space for independent podcasters like you and I and Bob
Yeah.
Dunn and
Oh,
people like
yeah.
that, because we all have strong networks and strong followings, and that's the key.
Well, I also think in my case, and maybe this is true with others, is that I did not go into this with the idea of getting sponsors. So if
Me
you're
neither.
creating some kind of endeavor, enterprise, whatever event, don't start thinking first of sponsors because I don't think you're going to go
Yep.
anywhere. If I had thought of sponsors first, this thing would have died. It would have never happened because that's just the wrong attitude, the wrong approach. Go in like I did if you can. I don't, I'm just going to do this to satisfy me. And if it's
Yep.
good and people will accept it, then you'll get sponsors. Otherwise, you won't. But I mean, that's like sort of the way it worked, and it's really fantastic. I Nothing like that really ever happened to me,
Yep.
before this.
Yep.
So,
I would agree, but I would agree with you. When I started
yeah.
my show, I started it when COVID started. I was at
Hmm.
home. I had read a book that a friend gave me, and
Hmm.
I jokingly said to him, "Can I interview you about the book?" It was a company he was
Right.
working for.
Yeah.
Company called a book called The Human Connection by Cody Bateman. Cody is the founder of Sendout Cards, one of the big social media card
Hmm.
sending services. And I said to my friend Matt Shreb, a shout out to Matt. I said, "You can send me a book, but I want to interview you." And he's like, "Great. That would be good for Send Out Cards. It'd be good
Right.
for Cody. You got a following." At the time, I didn't have a podcast. I did it as a one off. That was
Yeah.
episode one, then
Yeah.
episode two, then episode three.
Yeah. You got hooked.
And then I got hooked. And then it turned into this whole juggernaut where you do an
Yeah.
episode a week, I do
Right.
2 or 3 a week.
I
So
know.
that's kind of
Yeah.
and and I'm not saying that to put you down. You
No,
gotta
I
find
know.
your own cadence. And both you and I, you're older than I am, so I can pick on you a little bit because I
Go
pick
right
on
ahead.
Bob
I'm
Dunn.
older than everybody.
I pick on
Well,
Bob Dunn too, by the way. So there you go.
younger than me.
Um, yeah. So we're all AM radio guys going back in the
Yes,
day.
me too. Yeah, of
I
course.
grew up listening to AM radio. I used to sit
Right.
in my
Me too.
bedroom in Montreal at night and spin the dial and find out either what sports program or what late night talk show I could
Right.
listen to.
Right.
And because I was an AM radio guy, transitioning to podcasting was really easy, actually.
Well, as it turned out, I always wanted to do this. I mean, I
Yeah.
wanted to be on
Yeah.
talk radio ever.
Yeah, me too.
But I never like said, okay, talk radio equals podcasting. It never really, it
Yeah.
didn't connect until the idea for doing the show came to me in an instant. I didn't have to struggle. Like, what should I do? It came to me. I didn't go to it. And, in that sense, I was very lucky, because stuff doesn't
Yeah.
happen usually that way.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't. And we're lucky. You and I know some of the same people. Bob Dunn
Yeah.
over at Do the Woo, not called Do the
Yeah.
Woo now. What's
If
Bob's
you
right
start
now?
naming names, we'll be here forever. So,
Yeah, but the point I'm making is we have a lot of friends, both of us in the podcast space, so that helps. And
it did help. Yeah.
we also
Because I
have a
would
lot
go to
of
you, I'd
friends.
go to Bob, I'd go to others and ask about your tech
Yeah,
stack and should I use this
yeah,
and should I do that? And so it really flattened the curve. I didn't have to spend years figuring out what to do, like what I should use. You guys told me, do this, do this, do this, do this. Okay.
yep, yep.
And so away I went. So that was a big benefit. Now I will say another thing that I'm about to do, which I think ties in. I know it ties into show me the money stuff, which is I'm about to launch is a not really the right, I guess launch a once a month newsletter for all of my sponsors and friends of the show and people who have helped,
Mm.
not you, Rob, but people who have helped the show.
Thanks.
You don't want to get another email. Look, and it's like to tell them like what have I been doing to grow the
That's
show
awesome.
in the
That's
last
awesome.
month so
That's awesome.
that they stay engaged with me because I don't like to just to take their money
Yep.
and run. Yeah, I like to get involved in what they're doing and sort of become a little spokesman and
Yeah, yeah.
more than just like throwing their logo into my website. I don't want to do stuff that way. And they know that, you know.
Me either. Out of sight, out of mind. And I would say if it's podcasting, if it's agencies that have clients on maintenance retainer packages,
Right.
Guys, make sure you email your clients. And that's exactly what Bud is
Yeah.
doing. He's
Yeah.
staying in touch. I
Right.
email all my security clients, all 622 of them, every couple of weeks and say, by the way, here's what's going on.
Excellent.
And here's
Right.
because out of touch, out of mind is bad
Absolutely.
marketing.
Right. It's not only bad marketing, it's bad business, it's bad
Yep.
everything. When
Yep.
it's so easy to stay in touch. Come on. And it's
Yep.
good for business. I mean, so I'm going to
What
start
email,
doing this. Right.
what email platform are you using?
Well, I'm using OmniSend because they're a
Sponsor.
sponsor,
Yeah.
but I could use a whole bunch because I know a whole bunch. Who do you use?
I've used them all, and right
Yeah.
now I'm writing a Substack for my general email list. I write a Substack every Friday, generally. Last Friday, of course, not. I was on vacation. And I use for emailing clients, I have a lifetime license for that AppSumo product called SendFox.
Uh-huh.
And I've been
You
using that.
push it out
So
that way.
yeah, but I've got Mail Poet. I've got. It's like choose one. And to be fair, I've managed email lists of up to 50,000, so I can use
Yeah.
any platform. I was in Fusionsoft Keep certified back in the day. I've
Yeah.
used Active Campaign. I've used ConvertKit. I've used them all. So
Yeah.
that's
I
pretty.
know. I personally like ConvertKit of all of them the best. I hate to
Yep.
say that I'm saying because you're a sponsor, but I like it. It just seems to be the most fully featured and easiest to use of all the ones that and
Yep.
OmniSend really is targeted more for the WooCommerce kind of e-commerce kind of
Yeah. No
businesses.
question. No
Not,
question.
yeah, yeah. So they're
So the
good for
big, so the so the big thing here is the lesson folks out of this one is that Bud's doing is not only does he have a sponsorship program, he's staying in touch with his sponsors and stakeholders. And
yeah,
that is really important. Please, in your marketing, don't do what every other agency does and only target potential customers.
yeah.
You need to stay in touch with your existing
That is
clients,
that good.
customers, partnerships.
That Rob, that is such good advice because
Yep.
that base is where you can grow your business from
Hmm.
referrals, new work from the existing clients. You don't have to go out and keep chasing outside of your world. You know, work your world. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Yeah.
It does retargeting. It is cheaper to make money from an existing client
Yeah.
than to
Yeah.
go out after a new client. The cost per acquisition comes way down. Now
Yeah.
let's talk. Let's talk. Show the money for one other side. We're talking all around sponsorship, but there's another way podcasting generates this show me the money, and it's the way
Yeah.
I generate money.
Yeah.
It's the partnerships and the people who hear the show and say, "Hey, I really like Bud. I've gotten to know Bud because we all know people hire people they like, and then they
Right.
turn around and say, "Hey,
That's why
Bud,
no
will
one's
you
ever
do that?"
hired me.
Yeah, you're funny.
Now I realize
Wrong.
what the problem is.
And
I
then
get it.
and then people turn around and say, "Hey, Bud, I want to hire you because I've learned a little bit about you." That happens too, right?
Well, yes, and here's how that happens. I mean, not quite in that way, but because the people who are, I do WordPress, I create blog articles and
Yep.
content for WordPress businesses. So they tend to be sort of the same people that are on the show or sponsor or whatever. So it's like I'm just talking to the same people, but doing two very sort of different things. One is, I mean, it's all creating content, but one is the podcast and the other is like writing for Kinsta, hosting your GoDaddy,
Mhm.
blah, 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 all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, so it's kind of cool, like uh that it's like I say, it's one big happy little ball.
Yep.
That it's all everything is tied from one thing to the next. So that's really cool. And I have to say too, and I've said this many times, there was a time when I was making websites and I started really hating it. And
Yep.
while that was going on, I started accumulating all these WordPress people contacts, in the WordPress world.
Mhm.
And I would say, like, I would go to a WordCamp and say, gee, it's really nice that I know all these people, but man, I don't make a penny off of any of them. Well, now that's all I do is make a penny off of them because, so in other words, you can't go if you can't be a web designer and go to WordCamps and expect to get new business. That's not where your market is. So
Exactly.
yeah, so eventually now I have to go to WordCamps because that is my audience. That those are my customers, those are
Mhm.
my sponsors.
Mine,
So wow,
mine too, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm in
So now
I'm in the same boat. I mean, I do some dev stuff, but that's those who know me know the bulk of my niche is website security and locking down
yeah,
websites. So I
right. Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a deal I'm working on right now, and I won't reveal it yet because it's not finished. Where the gentleman was a guest on my podcast 3 months ago, and his agency's now come back to me and say, "Can we outsource all our security, all our maintenance to you?" And there's the show me your money right there. He was a
You
guest.
know, yeah, podcasts can really open doors,
Yep,
because you
yep.
sit and have these like kind of casual conversations and you're marketing while you're doing all this and publishing all these podcasts. But in the meantime, you're creating close ties to people that will eventually be your customers. How cool is that? That's why I go around to everybody saying when they think, well, what should I do? And I go, have you thought about doing a podcast? And I laugh when I
Yep.
say that because like to me, that's like, what?
Yep.
But it's true.
But
What you
but
just
you know what
described.
it is? You know what it is. But you and I do video, and when I
I don't
started
do
the
it.
show, I did
No, I
no.
just do audio.
Okay, I do video, so you know
Okay.
that. And when
Right.
I started this show, I started doing audio just because I know that not that I'm afraid of video. It's because I know where people's comfort zones are, and people like to listen to audio. And what I'll tell you is a lot of people aren't comfortable with video. I mean,
Oh,
I'm working on episode 600, and I went to
right.
my partner and said, "Could you nicely record a video for me?" And she said, that puts me out of my comfort zone. And I said, "I know, but I'm asking you." Anyway, so what I would say to people is if you're afraid of doing video, drop out of your comfort zone and just do some. Remember, you're only talking to your camera when you do it, or your guest or the other person.
Yeah.
You forget about the other 6,000 people listening. That's another story, right?
Okay. Very nice. But I
Yeah.
I I don't even think about that stuff. I just
No,
totally
me
am
neither.
unaware of the technology. And I just sort of
Yep.
think of like your face is right in front of me. Well,
Yep.
perish thought. But that you're right in front of me. And I'm just talking to you like as if we're having lunch or something like that. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
Yeah.
that your approach is very similar to my approach,
Yeah,
and
I
that
know.
makes it so easy. Um,
Right.
in terms of money, so we've talked about sponsorship. We've talked about, which is a good idea. I haven't gone that route, by the way, yet.
Well, may I
Still,
just say one other thing about sponsorships? If you're
sure.
developing something that you're getting sponsors for, you'll want, and let's say this thing starts to take off, then you're also, and you're doing a podcast, then don't forget newsletter, blog, ebook. This is why I call it the enterprise, because
Yep.
all of these things are advertising platforms.
Yes, they are.
And yeah, so I mean, it's endless. So you can just keep going and become an
Yeah,
empire.
I love the ebook aspect. I don't know if you know, I'm working on a project. I started it in March, and then due to clients and family stuff and all kinds of stuff,
Right,
I put it on
right.
hold, but picked it back up. I'm in the middle of transitioning the entire podcast to 50 volume books, basically a show notes. So if you don't want to read, if you don't go back and listen, and
Absolutely.
I'm
Mhm.
100% giving it away for free.
Right.
Everything. I'm not even
Because
selling this.
what do we get in exchange? Nothing. I mean, what do you want in exchange? Is there any exchange here?
I will get listeners. I
Yeah.
will generate some clients. It will
Right.
help it will help my brand recognition. It will
Right.
help my name recognition. So I'm getting a lot in
Yeah.
exchange out of
Okay.
it.
All right. Because I had an ebook that was released this year. Thank you, Robbie Adair, for being the sponsor of the ebook.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this, because you can just plug everybody. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Don't plug yourself, plug
Yep.
everybody
Yep.
else.
Yep.
Yeah, don't ever plug yourself, for God's sake. It's terrible. So
It's just
anyway,
bad marketing. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Plug, there's a million people you can plug them. So anyway, I'm now going to launch a campaign. It's called Questions I Wish I Had Asked. And there's 5 people that I identify. And I went to each one of those, Aaron Campbell and a bunch of people,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
James Giroux. And I went to them and
I know,
said,
James.
answer
Yep.
this question that I forgot to ask you and turn that into an ebook. The ebook now is being used to, I'm going to market that and really starting to launch this now. Um, so you get the ebook and you get subscribed to my newsletter all at the
Hmm.
same time. In other words, it's a hook to subscribe you to the
Of
newsletter
course.
because I need to build that up. So yeah, so you just keep thinking of like there's so much material here that you're creating that I'm creating with a podcast now and with AI and blah blah blah. Oh my goodness. I mean,
Yep.
wow. So
Yep. And I would say to anybody who's not sure how to repurpose content, go listen to episode, I was going to say 574 or 573 with Todd Jones. Todd and I talk about remixing content. And that's
wow.
exactly one of the things Bud and I are talking about is once you do the podcast, what do you do with that content and
Yeah,
how do you move it
right,
around? And
right.
that will actually make your production easier and it will actually help you generate revenue easier too.
Now, did you say remix the podcast? Is that what you said?
Remixing, no, we talked about remixing content.
Oh, I see. Okay, because it's so easy now to take clips out, social
Yep.
media, to do
Yep.
summary, to whatever. There's just the tools are just make it so easy. I love it. It's
thank
fun.
AI for thank AI for a lot of that. All the AI
Yeah.
haters that make. I'll tell
Oh no.
you, AI. Nathan Wrigley and I were talking about this for we went live yesterday, and AI has made Nathan's and mine, and I'm sure Bob Dunn's in your lives like 10 times
Oh
easier.
my goodness. I mean, case in point, every episode has a summary, a five
Yep.
paragraph summary. How
Yep.
long would that take me to write if I actually had to write that? Unbelievable. I use AI to generate a 5 paragraph summary, then I tweak it, it's all
Yep.
done. It's
Yep.
remarkable. Then I have an AI
My
voice. So it's just incredible.
my process is I take the audio version of podcast, I upload it to Notebook LM. I'll put
Right.
that process out again. So again, and what I do is Notebook LM, the Google product, it generates a summary and it generates text. Then I take the text and I throw it back into Gemini and say, now take the text Google's already spitting out and clean it up and give me a podcast show notes, and I'm done. And
Yeah,
honestly, I can't write that well. I'm done.
of course.
Like,
Not only, and you can't write that fast. So
yeah,
it just
thanks.
blows. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where AI, well, I always say, like when I meet people today, it's young people, older
Yeah.
people, whatever. And I said, if I were hiring somebody to work, at whatever job, my first question is, do you know how to use ChatGPT or
Yep.
AI? And if your
Yep.
answer is no, you're not going to get hired.
I agree.
You must know how to use this stuff. If you don't, you're just ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes her life
It's
easy.
amazing. A lot of people are still saying, I don't want to use AI. You're going to be left behind. You're going to be left behind.
You're already left behind, bud.
For
Forget
sure.
going to be. You are
Right.
there.
You're already left behind. Yeah. Yeah. The train has left the station, but it's not too late to learn. Of course not. But if your attitude is, I'm not going to learn this stuff, forget it. It's just not a
Yeah.
good idea. It would be like
So is there?
saying 25, 30 years ago, I'm not going to use Google. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, I'm not, I mean, come on. It's whatever.
Is there anything other way you would like to show us some money?
No, but if you're going to, can I say this? If you're going to WordCamp US
Sure.
2025, if you're going to WordCamp US 2025, I will be there, and I guess I'm giving a talk. Uh, so I'll see you, and it'll be a lot of fun. And like I say, what do you like? I had to fill out this form. What do I like? What am I going to be doing at WordCamp? Or what do I like about WordCamp US? I
Yep.
like the party track, I like the bar track, and I like the vendor track in that order. That's
Yeah,
what I
I
always.
I I agree, and it's funny. I've been to WordCamps in Canada
Yeah.
and WordCamp Toronto. We haven't
Yep.
had one in a couple of years. And the last one in Toronto is that I think I spent, except for one talk, two talks, I spent all weekend in the hall talking to people and catching
Yeah.
up.
Well,
So,
that's,
so
I mean, yeah.
that's the beauty of it all. I'm headed
Well,
to
yeah.
WordCamp Ottawa in October. So I
You mean
WordCamp Canada.
WordCamp Canada, not WordCamp Ottawa.
Yeah, I corrected myself. Actually, WordCamp
Oh,
A, W
A.
C E
Yes.
H
H.
A,
Right.
to be specific. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, after a while, you go to so many of these and you can only go to so many talks. And I have the attention span of a gnat. I can't sit still.
I
Usually I
know.
sit with Robbie and Robbie usually like has to like wake me up every 5 minutes. Come on, wake up, bud. I fell asleep during her talk and she woke me up in the middle of the talk in Work Camp Rochester last year. She say like, okay, would somebody wake up, bud? So it's bad.
Yeah, you're
Anyway,
funny. Anyway, if somebody wants to hire you, check out podcasts, get in touch. How
yeah.
is the
Well,
best
the
way?
best way is bud@joyofwp.com. That's bud@joyofwp.com. But my podcast site, where you can listen to all almost 70 episodes now, is Seriously Bud, without a question mark, seriouslybud.com.
And make sure you ask him how his Mets are doing, because he'll love to hear
Good.
that.
Yeah, we'll see you in the World Series there, Rob. Wouldn't that be fun, huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll talk to you
oh.
soon, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Bud Kraus for joining me on this edition of the SDM. The SDM show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.